Vietnam War was a devastating and costly war that lasted approximately 20 years, from November 1st, 1955 until April 30th, 1975. It was a battle between two opposing sides of the same country, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. The end of the Vietnam War in 1975 provided an opportunity for thousands of Vietnamese boat people to escape communism in search of a better life in America, which was triumphant for those who survived the treacherous boat journey, but proved to be tragic when the Vietnamese refugees were unfairly treated by Americans and were denied equal rights and opportunities.
Don't like to brag. I never have been right many times in my life, but I knew we were going to get in this sort of mess when we went in there, and I don't see how we're going to ever get out without fighting a major war with the Chinese and all of them down there in those rice paddies and jungles. I just don't see it. I just don't know what to do.
Well, that's the way I've been feeling for
it's deteriorating.
6 months.
Our position is deteriorating. And it looked like the more we try to do for them, the less they're willing to do for themselves. It's just a sad situation. There's no sense of responsibility there on the part of any of their leaders.
In March of 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson sent the first combat troops to fight in Vietnam. The United States government thought of their involvement as a way to stop communism from spreading to South Vietnam. At the end of the war, nearly 58,000 Americans had lost their lives. About 2 million Vietnamese died, another 3 million wounded, and about 12 million became refugees. At the end of the Vietnam War in 1975, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese boat people fled their country in search of a better life. Malcolm Fraser, who was Australian Prime Minister from 1975 to 1983, commented on the waves of boat people coming into his country at the time, stating that it takes a great deal of courage to leave everything you have known, your country, your district, your community. The motivation is clearly to seek safety, to seek freedom, and perhaps overridingly to seek a better future, especially for children. Of the 12 million Vietnamese refugees that fled the communist regime, an estimated 700,000 were boat people. Some were forced to leave family members behind, while others sent their children on boats with fellow villagers, while they themselves could not go.
I think that because I was actually one of the boat people, I could have actually died at sea. What happened was, my mom and dad tried to escape one time prior to this, but my dad got caught and he was put in prison. But because he was a soccer player for the city, the government let him go. And so then the second time when we escaped, my mom tried to look for my dad, but he was at a soccer tournament and she couldn't find him. And when you escape to go to America, it's a secret, so you can't really announce it. So my mom just grabbed me and took me, and we just went on the boat and left my dad in Vietnam. That is why I grew up without a dad. So my mom and I left my dad when I was 5 years old.
Those that had managed to flee had to face the risk of death by starvation, dehydration, sickness, or even piracy.
We bought a boat with a partner, okay? And I think they put in about 20 sticks of gold. You know what that means, right? Like little sticks like that, and 20 of them, and we buy the boat, and then the whole family, my family is like 6 members, and then I don't remember that guy's family, but I think he's about 10. So we got in the boat, and then I think the total number of people on the boat is like 85 people. And then from where we live to the open ocean, you have to go like I guess 1 day and 1 night, very slowly. You don't want people to know that you're escaping. You want people to know that you're just conduct your regular business. Okay, so we pretend like we go here, we stop, and we go there, we stop, and finally we make it to the ocean. We made it in the middle of the night because we don't want to know where you're going. Everybody is like hid under the boat. I was at the bottom of the inside the boat. Okay. Now once we got into the open ocean, we ran into 3 pirate boats. And then prior to that, my mom, she went to the supermarket, not to the supermarket, the flea market, and she exchanged the pet gold. Okay, so that when you run into the pirate, and in the middle of the night, you hand them the whole bag. Okay, that way they couldn't tell. And she had like 5 or 6 bags. That's how we escaped the pirate.
Miraculously, thousands survived the harrowing journey across the South China Sea to various refugee camps in neighboring countries. The journey of the Vietnamese boat people was long and perilous, but the perseverance and hope got them through the worst of times. Once they got to the refugee camps, they were eventually sponsored to various countries, including the United States of America. It is estimated that 20,000 boat people were sponsored to enter America. For the Vietnamese boat people, there was a sense of triumph and pride that they had overcome such a life-changing ordeal. What they did not consider, however, when they stepped onto American soil, was a sentiment at that time from Americans who had all along opposed American involvement in the war, or from those who had lost loved ones in the war. In the shadows of their triumphant arrival to America are countless stories of how Vietnamese boat people were unfairly treated once they started searching for equal opportunities in America.
But I see a lot of interaction, like a guy look at me and say, "Hey, you look funny because your hair is black. You don't look like a typical American," so they make fun of me. And the lack of English at the time also was the impediment.
I remember as a young boy walking on Santa Clara Street where their store was located and seeing a sign in another store window that said, "Another American driven out of business by the Vietnamese." Because I wonder if this storekeeper ever thought about who these refugees were.
The Australian Prime Minister during the time of the Exodus, Malcolm Fraser, reminded others of the courage and perseverance of the boat people when they made a decision to leave their country in search of better lives by saying, "It is enormously important that the genuine voices of people fleeing danger and terror in their own lands be heard and understood. It is all the more important since for too long, government and politicians have sought to denigrate asylum seekers, accusing them of all sorts of terrible things and strongly suggesting that they would be undesirable and undermine the values of a country. Governments need to show more concern and more compassion. If they can understand many of the stories, they might be more prepared to stand for principle, rather than for what they think is political expediency."
This idea that refugees and immigrants are somehow needy. If you think about it, what kind of person would pick up from their usual lives, negotiate all the real dangerous situations to get here to the United States, and then to try to start a new life in a place where it's not familiar? Refugees and immigrants are not, in my view, a needy group. They're actually a huge potential force that if we tap in, that a country will benefit from.